I know that people are still coming in the room, but I'm going to start to introduce everyone as you all are joining. Welcome, fellow Flyers. We're so glad you could join us for Career Guidance in Uncertain Times. My name is Jen Weed. I'm class of 95, president-elect of the UD Alumni Association. I'm really excited to be here. I'm in my day job. I'm vice president of education at CCIM Institute and focus most of my time on adult education and professional development. I have a few housekeeping tips before we get started, and then we'll get to the meat of tonight's webinar. We are going to take questions through the Q&A feature. It should be at the bottom of your Zoom bar. For those of you that submitted questions in advance, thank you so much. We appreciate that, and they've been shared with Ray and Kevin, and we will do our best to address them during the session. If you didn't submit a question in advance or something new occurs to you during tonight's conversation, just use the Q&A feature and we will do our best, time permitting, to get to all of the questions. We are recording this video and we'll upload it to our digital engagement site, UDigital. And I would ask Anita or Mackenzie if you would put that link in out to everybody at some point. That would be great. Before we get to Ray and Kevin, I just have a few facts and comments to set the stage for the conversation. Over the past 100 days, the US economy has gone from one of the best ever job markets for applicants to one of the worst ever labor markets. This means that the war for talent has shifted back to the employer in many industries, although not all. And for many of our younger college graduates, those in that day 10 group, they've never competed for jobs in this type of labor market. And the competition for you in many professional areas will be much greater over the next 1 to 2 years. You might even be asking yourself, how do I compete for jobs in this economic crisis? How can I get a competitive advantage over other applicants? And if I have been laid off and can't find a job, what should I do? Now, if you've been watching The Last Dance, Michael Jordan's story about winning 6 championships, you learn a lot about how to compete and win. Many of his approaches, traits, and attitude will be needed to find the right company and job during this economic crisis. You will need to significantly up your game to compete. And just like Jordan or LeBron, if you're from Cleveland, it is going to take dedication, long hours of preparation, continuous improvement, passion, and a desire to win to achieve your goals in this current economic environment. So now that I've suitably maybe panicked you, there's good news. Today, we're going to share tips, specific approaches, and practices that will help you compete effectively and be in the top 20% of candidates applying for roles that you want. Ray, you want to introduce yourself?
Well, good evening and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ray Blakeney. I'm class of 1993, political science. So if there's any poli-sci folks out there, shout out. I'm currently the Director of Global Talent Acquisition at Microsoft for Azure. And I'll spend the bulk of time today talking about networking. In my current affiliation with UD is I'm the president of the Alumni Association and a board of trustee member. And so I'm really excited to engage with so many of you in this conversation this evening. Thanks.
Kevin?
Hi, Flyer Nation. Kevin Tarrant. I'm a UD graduate from 1979 in social work, criminal justice. I spent 40 years in the human capital HR arena. 35 of those years in corporate America. I worked for companies like Westinghouse, Arrow Electronics, First Data, Monsanto. Worked in a variety of HR functions, but I was the head of HR for 2 publicly traded Fortune 500 companies. Most of my career is about change management, change leadership, and how do you change cultures. And for you concerned out there, this is the 4th economic crisis I have been in my career. You might think this is the only one. Well, if you've been around for 40 years, there's been 3 other major ones. And in certain industries, there's been more. But across the board, we've had this is about the 4th major one in the last 40 years. So I know how difficult it can be. And by the way, I lost my job in the 3rd one, so I can share those stories and learn from that experience for myself.
And Kevin, you're going to talk about personal brand. So we're going to jump right in. How can everyone on this call more effectively compete against other candidates in this tight labor market?
Well, let me start with this. If you've lost your job, if you're concerned about losing your job, do not, number one, lose your confidence. I see too often, and Ray will talk about this too, we see people that have lost their jobs and they come in totally lack of confidence. Companies are not here to fix you. We're here to hire the best talent. So if you lose your confidence, immediately you're going to get behind the 8 ball. The second is be resilient. You're going to get a lot of rejections. But from those rejections, you're going to learn more and more about yourself, and you'll get better and better and stronger. And the last is stay the course. What Ray and I will talk about today, it takes dedication and time, and we're going to ask you to stay the course throughout this process. So if you start to look, before I get into personal brand, I want to talk about a couple things. One is, as you look at the labor market and you're looking maybe for a new job or a new company, ready, aim, fire. When you get an economic crisis like this, I have found in my career, a lot of people run to their network, run to applying for jobs, but they really haven't done the right preparation. And there is a lot of proper preparation to prepare for this labor market. So please, if you don't prepare well, you might get into that, lose your confidence and get into this unemployment spiral, which is not going to help you at all. Before you reach out to your network and apply for jobs, you first have to know yourself. Think about your strengths, your weaknesses, your passion, your desires, your values, your traits, your experiences, expertise, accomplishments. All these things will be built into your personal brand, which is critical to promote in this kind of labor market, which I will talk about in a few minutes. Once you understand your brand, you need to be able to clearly and concisely articulate that brand. Then you're ready to go to the network, your network, and differentiate yourself from other candidates. But first, you got to get this brand right and get it concise and clear. Note, once you have this brand, you need to be authentic. You have to have clear stories that support your personal brand. One thing is saying your brand, but if you can't support it with stories and challenges, accomplishments that show that you have those, that is your true brand, it won't be effective. Based on my 40 years of interviewing and selecting thousands of candidates, and Ray has done it probably too, if you can passionately and clearly define what I would answer the 3 whys and link it to your personal brand, I will tell you, you'll be in the top 20% of all candidates. So I just set you up for the 3 whys.
What are the 3 whys, Kevin?
What's the 3 whys? Think of it this way. When you go looking for a job or a company, I want you to be able to answer 3 things as you look at that job and company. 1, why are you choosing that company? 2, why are you choosing that job? And 3, why me? Why would you want to select me? And in the middle of those 3 bars is your personal brand. You need to be able to connect your personal brand to those 3 whys. For example, when you look at a company you may be interested in, look at their strategies, look at their business, look at their challenges. Is it a startup? Is it a high growth company? Is it a turnaround company? Is it a slow growth? Is that company going through a new geographical regional expansion? Is it trying to pivot to new markets? Is it public? Is it privately traded? Is it family owned? These are all the things that you can start to see about the company and maybe your personal brand, that how do I align with those things? Start to sell that you're passionate about that company because it aligns to your personal brand. The second part is why the job? What are the job competencies they require? Do they fit your skill set? Do they fit the experience and expertise you have? Why is that job open? What are the critical success factors for that job? Start to learn more and more about the job. And again, go back to your personal brand and see how that personal brand connects well to that job. And then the last piece is why me? Now we're getting into, look at that company's culture and value system. Look at how it really gets work done. Look at its organization structure. Is it centralized? Is it decentralized? Is it a matrix organization? All those things will give you an indicator about their culture and how they operate and their values Again, look at your personal brand and your traits, your values, your desires, and see if they align. The bottom line, what I find is the personal brand cuts through all the 3 whys. If you can answer all of those clearly, concisely, with passion, you know, Ray will tell you later, but you become the top 20% of candidates. It's sad to say how many candidates cannot do that well.
Kevin, I think most people can identify people that have a good personal brand or conversely a bad personal brand. But if you're maybe new to this or just really starting to think about it, how do you develop your own personal brand?
Well, I'm going to start with, when we talk about personal brand, we all hear about corporate brands. Actually, some of you may work at companies that have big brands, or, you know, it's the first thing we think of. Companies spend billions of dollars to articulate a certain brand they want in the market. Think about a Procter & Gamble or P&G or these kinds of companies. They spend literally billions on that. Actually, I worked for Nielsen Marketing Research, where we would track the sale of all these products. They would fight for shelf space to get their brands, and our data would help them articulate their brands. So if I say things like Procter & Gamble, I say Starbucks, I say Google, I say Microsoft, Pepsi, all of a sudden things come to your brain, right, about brands. That's at a corporate level. It's no different than a personal level. If I said Michael Jordan, and for Jen, you know, if I said LeBron James, if I talk Warren Buffett, an image comes in, a brand, a reputation comes in right away. Elon Musk. Look at someone like George Clooney. Actually, George Clooney is a good example of someone that's kind of changed their brand. They've added to their brand. If I said George Clooney 20 years ago, 25, first thing out of your mouth would be actor. You know what? He sold $1 billion tequila business. He does huge amount of humanitarian things today. So he's grown and developed his brand over his life, and he's a big director now. You hardly see him acting. So he's changed his brand, but these are the things that jump your mind at that level. So here it is. What is a personal brand? It is your image and reputation. Simple as that. It's your image and reputation. Here's the scary part. Whether you like it or not, you already have a personal brand. I spent my career, I did many, many, many talent reviews where we talked about the talents across our organization around the world. People talked about brands. We might have a new startup of a business. Names came out. You know, Johnny is this great startup guy. Remember when he did this? You know, people have brands. The problem is most employees don't realize they are being branded and it may not be the brand they want. That may not be the image and reputation they want. You have a choice to create that brand and make that happen. So before you go to market, you must know who I am and what I bring to the market. And one of the ways you start to build your brand, think about what ignites your passion. Interest, what excites you? Personality, the way you like to work and relate to others. Competencies, what are your skills, ability, and talents and traits? Your value system, your experiences and expertise. These are sort of some of the building blocks to build your brands. There is a woman, Karen Lang, who created a book, Branding Pays, and I would highly recommend it, but she makes it really simple. Think of cake and icing. The cake is the rational value. The icing is the emotional value. So cake, foundation, you build the foundation. That's your expertise, experiences, strengths, competencies, skills. That's the core, that's the foundation. The icing is the emotional value, your personality, your style, your image, your values. Show how you emotionally connect and work with others. She calls it, once you bake the cake and then put the icing on it, you got a strong brand. So that's the way we start to look about what a personal brand is. And this is something I would even when you come right out of college, you could start to do this type of thing.
So Kevin, what should our audience members do that have maybe they've been furloughed because of COVID or they're no longer working? How do they continue to enhance their personal brand if they don't have a job to add to it?
let me just go back a little bit to give you a little bit more detail, some of the pitfalls and some of the things about a personal brand. Because there's a lot of people don't know how to build it. I just gave you some things, right? But as you start to build your personal brand, here's some questions you ask yourself. Describe who you are in terms of what you know, your favorite work experiences and field of interest. 2, describe the kind of people you most prefer to work with. 3, describe who you are in terms of what you can do, your favorite functional, transferable skills and competencies. 4, describe who you are in terms of your favorite working conditions and industries. There's small companies, there's nonprofit, there's for-profit, there's global. Think about where you could excel and what works for you. Describe in terms of preferred level of responsibility. There's a lot of people that like to work by themselves. Remote, working from home right now, some people love this. Others are going crazy, right? Do you like to work with others? Do you like to lead others? Do you like to run the show? Also describe achievements and accomplishments in life. It can be personal as well as work. I know we have a lot of younger people out there that may not have the in-depth working experience. You can look at personal things, whether you volunteered or some things to show these accomplishments. And describe who you are in terms of your goals and the sense of mission and your purpose in life. These are some of the core building blocks for starting to build your brand. The next step is ask bosses, peers, family, friends the following questions. How would you describe me to others? What 5 words would you use to describe my personality values? What do you see as my strengths and weaknesses? What is my image reputation? By the way, your family, friends, peers have those. They'll answer some of these. What are my greatest assets? What do you know about me? What are my greatest accomplishments, achievements? How would you describe my passion and interest? What type of job or business do you see me successful in? These are all the kinds of questions. I want you to start from a macro level because once you get to the personal brand, it's going to be small, but you'd rather deal with more ingredients to begin with to really narrow that down. The last thing I would suggest, if you have not done a personality or an interest assessment in your life, in your career, those could be highly valuable in starting to also give you more ingredients for developing your personal brand. So, pitfalls. I'm going to talk about pitfalls of mistakes with personal brand. 1 myth. Doing a great job equals a great reputation. People are not mind readers. They have no way of knowing what great work you're doing unless you let them know. You must market your contribution to be recognized for your value. I always give this analogy. I worked in a lot of engineering companies. And we would have super smart engineers, but they couldn't sell their idea to nobody. That idea goes nowhere. You've got to market yourself in your organizations. Even if you're not an organization, you got to market yourself in LinkedIn and other ways in your networks. But don't think that just because you do a great job, everyone's going to recognize that. The second myth, my boss will market my brand. Don't be a victim. Be your own brand manager. Every individual needs to understand that in today's economy, you need to be responsible for your own destiny and career. I know in HR, we've been talking about this for 10 years. You're in control of your career, not your boss. People used to depend on the boss. It's the same thing for your personal brand. And lastly, self-promotion is boastful and bad. That's a myth. Most people do not like promoting themselves. If you were taught to be humble, then marketing your achievements seems to fly in the face of your cultural values. Own a place at the table. Don't just take up space. Share your achievements with your boss and others by generating new ideas. So I think it's so important that, again, there's some people that are overly boastful, but most people I work with, I do a lot of career coaching, 80% of the people I work with do not boast enough and do not promote themselves enough. And they have tremendous results and accomplishments, but they just don't go out and advertise that more. So do not think of this self-promotion, but as educating others. Brand education helps a target audience to recognize your value. So those are the things there. So I'll go back to your other question. How can you enhance your brand if you're furloughed or not working? If you're not working and you're laid off, you have a choice to make. You know what? I could continue to receive unemployment payments and focus 100% looking for a job, or you can add activities to further develop and grow your personal brand. Example, look for things that can help align you to your personal brand. I'm going to share some examples. First of all, you can volunteer in organizations or in activities that fit your interests or passions, your personal brand. Volunteer in roles that either fill your strengths or actually might develop some new skills. Participate on nonprofit boards. If you're creative, build something new. There was an example that came up recently I just thought was fantastic in the news. Many of you might have heard that there was a lot of farmers out there could not get their products to market. They were actually wasting them. They were dumping milk and all this food. A bunch of college students got together, volunteered, and created a supply chain directly from those farmers to the food banks. Not being paid, but they created something. And by the way, their skill set is now being developed. If those students came in to me as an HR leader versus other people who sat there and just got unemployment, those people go to the front of the line. Plus, they're enhancing their brand and their skill set. Another idea is go back to school. Take classes that will further develop your skills or areas of expertise. Even consider being an adjunct professor if you have a lot of experience. You don't get paid much, but you can give back and actually learn and build a network from that. Also, another area is get certifications in areas that fit your career interests. Many professions have professional organizations that offer certification programs. Colleges and non-colleges offer these programs. If you're in supply chain management, there's APICS to get degree certification in finance, HR, technology. Many professions have certification programs. There's also a growing thing of boot camps where you can actually go for 13 weeks, 26 weeks and develop a very specific skill. Like Ray could tell you in the technology world, they need people and software programmers. They're actually going to these boot camps. Some of these companies are actually creating boot camps in their own companies. Another idea, mentor others. I know UD has a mentoring program. You know, it's also about giving and taking. You know, and a lot of people, when they lose their job, it's a lot of taking from others. You need to learn to give. And mentoring is a way you can also enhance your coaching ability, your leadership ability. It's another way to further grow. Another one which people, it's a struggle. And I tell you, when you get in these tough economic conditions, this is a tough one to think about. But maybe you might consider a lower level position or an entry level position in a company that you highly desired, that you're targeting. You will build relationships and performance histories. When things return, you might get to that front of the list to be considered. It's hard for people to accept that sometimes, but it's better being in a company you really think fits your values, fits your personal brand. And then over time, you may get considered for the job you want that doesn't exist maybe today. I can tell you in my career too, is when I see people come in companies, they may come in one job, but because of their personal brand and what they demonstrated over the last year, we put them in a very different job. So sometimes it's better being, you know, in that circle than trying to get into that circle from the outside. And Ray later will talk a lot about networking, but that is critical in this whole process. If you don't have a job, how to really connect.
Thanks,
Okay.
Kevin. Before I go on to the next question, could you please repeat the name of the book that you referenced?
Her name is Karen Lang. It's Branding Pays.
Branding Pays, P-A-Y-S, Pays, by Karen Lang. Is that L-A-N-G?
L-A-N-G.
Thank you so much.
Kang, I'm sorry, it's K-A-N-G. Kang.
K-A-N-G. Okay, I'm just going to confuse everybody, but if you can.
Great book, great book.
Thanks, Kevin. All right, moving a little bit away from the furloughing, but still thinking about people transitioning. How can people use their transferable skills to switch into a new industry?
Well, we're going to come back to a common phrase, your personal brand. Go back to your personal brand. You'll notice many of the descriptors of yourself are not industry specific. If I use a word like change agent, turnaround, startup, global expansion, These are not industry-specific titles. So the big way you transfer, and by the way, I did that. I worked in many different industries. A lot of us in HR, what we look for is competencies. So when we look at jobs, you'll actually see competencies that has nothing to do with an industry. Building relationships, influence and impact. These are things that we look for in certain jobs and are not industry specific. So another suggestion, it's called Lominger, L-O-M-I-N-G-E-R. They have 66 competencies. Many companies have used those Lomingers to build core competencies within their company. So they'll look at the 66 and may pick 6 or 8 that they say these are core competencies we want all our employees to have. If you're in sales, we might add these other 2 or 3. What I suggest is you go look at these Lominger competencies and pick 8 to 12 that are your strengths. Make sure you put that into your resume and your LinkedIn profile as you look for other jobs. Those become bridges between industries. Also, highlight the key business challenges and achievements you confronted. Describe them in terms of challenges, not industry. Okay? Let's say there was a failing product that was declining in market, but you helped turn that around and got it into a growth category. Is that industry specific? If you think about it, there's a lot of leadership, there's a lot of influencing. It has nothing to do with industry. There's a lot of competencies and skills that made you successful doing that. So highlight any challenges you had in your past jobs and your accomplishments, and you'll notice many of those are not industry specific. Last, focus on your key strengths and values. Make sure that shows up in your personal branding and it shows up in your resume and your LinkedIn profile. These are the things that link you. There are clearly some industries that you have to get over this hurdle. You have to have these technical, specific industry experiences. But I would argue that has changed dramatically over the last 20 years. Actually, sometimes even in my companies, we actually wanted to bring people from other industries because they'll have a different perspective. And I'll give you one good example is, I think most publicly traded company, if you have a board of directors and you don't have a technology expert on your board, you are missing something significant. I don't care what industry you're in. The new one coming in is security, right? Everyone's for cybersecurity. These are new areas. You need those perspectives from other businesses, other industries that would help your industry. There's always leaders and laggers. If you're in a leading industry, you might go to another industry that's a lagger that would really value your expertise and your skill set. So those are some suggestions I would make.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. I'm going to hop over to Ray and then may come back to you with a few other questions that have come in.
Great.
Ray, what are some of your thoughts around how you enhance and develop your personal brand as it relates to networking, resume, LinkedIn development?
Yeah, thanks, Jen. A couple thoughts. I'll begin with I lead talent acquisition for Microsoft in an industry that didn't exist when I graduated from college, and in fact, it didn't exist when I joined Microsoft in '97. And so we've got a multi-billion-dollar product with a $1 trillion opportunity in a space that we never even dreamed about while sitting in a poli-sci class in St. Joseph's Hall at UD. And so I think, the thing that I tell that story because so much of what Kevin talked about in terms of the other things that you could focus on, especially if you're trying to transition from one industry to another, are those things that companies value highly. So things like growth mindset, how do you learn? How do you solve problems? How do you get results? How do you lead or manage teams? If you're new in your career, we look for examples of people that have excelled. So if you're on campus, did you win awards? Were you an athlete at some point? So what are the things that stand out that shows that in an environment, you will begin to differentiate yourself? And so those, I think, are things that whether you're changing industries or you're trying to look for a job in this market, you want to find those areas of differentiation that you could highlight to an employer. And then finally, one of the things that I think is a mistake that many job seekers do is they don't take the time, as Kevin said, to prepare to do a job search. And so I will get probably from my own network a couple hundred resumes a month where I just will do reviews. And the number one piece of feedback that I give is this resume is made for someone in your current company or your past company to review, because I don't understand a thing on it. You're giving me acronyms or phrases in that company that doesn't make sense in a global market. And so how do you elevate what's on your resume so that it will apply whether you're sending it to me or to Kevin or to any other employer? And one thing that I challenge everyone to do on their resume is I encourage them to cut their resume in half. And once they do that, cut it in half again, because really what it does is it focuses you on the most important things that you want to highlight. So to Kevin's point, you start to distill the essence of your brand when you start to say, you can't have a 5-page resume, it needs to be 2 pages, or you can't have a 2-page resume, it needs to be 1, and you can't have a 1-page, you need to have a bullet point. And it really focuses individuals on saying, here are the most important things I want to highlight. And so, very quickly through that, but so I'll stop there and let you go to next question.
Thanks, Ray. In your opinion, to what extent and how really will job interviews and hiring practices change for your companies as we move through and beyond this pandemic?
Yeah, so, at Microsoft, we moved all of our interviews, thousands of interviews, online in about 24 hours. And I actually don't think that once we go back to whatever normal is, that will change materially. So I think for many companies, they're finding that you could actually do more interviews more efficiently, more quickly, virtually. And so I think that is going to be something that everyone on this call and people should just be prepared for. I don't think that we're going to have this notion of people flying to do an interview in a different city, getting dressed up and going. I think you're going to see technology become kind of a great enabler of doing interviews faster. And to be quite honest with you, for many companies, recruiting is a major expense. And so suddenly, if you don't have to pay for flights and hotel rooms and meals, and it's terribly inefficient. And so this becomes a much easier and much more efficient way to do interviews. And so I think this will be here to stay, and this will be a medium that everyone will need to get very comfortable with. And so I think career centers on campuses, rather than practicing the in-person interview, more of these should be in the wheelhouse. And so I do think that what we're seeing today, as companies have moved to these virtual interviews, as the economy comes back or there's freer movement of individuals, this sort of virtual interview environment is probably going to be here to stay. And certainly for high tech, many Fortune 500s, Fortune 1000s, that would be the case. There'll be some industries where you'll still need to do face-to-face interviews. But I think for many roles in the corporate sector, this will be the new norm.
And I would think it should certainly open up doors globally for candidates to not think about they have to apply in the city where they live, right? That their doors are open now that we've really shifted to a completely virtual world.
Correct. I mean, in my view, people are competing globally for the roles. And so if you are qualified and you're going to make our product better, and whether you're sitting in New Delhi, India, whether you're sitting in New Lebanon, Ohio, whether you're sitting in London, we will find you and we will recruit you, and we will, because it will, so really the battle for talent, you're not competing with people just on the UD campus or in Chicago or in Seattle. It truly is a level playing field where competition, you're going to have to rise above that level of competition globally.
You referenced a few things on what makes a really great resume or LinkedIn profile. And I think I have to go back and create a 1-bullet, 1-page resume. So that's going to look real good. I'll send it to you with you, Ray. But is there anything else that you would share around what you think makes something exceptional? What type of profile or resume really stands out to you?
Yeah. So I will say with this caveat that it will be industry specific, right? But things that tend to stick out for me as I review LinkedIn profiles or resumes. One, results. And so many people will indicate what they did, the activities, but I don't understand, was that successful or not? So those that are able to delineate, here's the result that I got. I increased by X, or reduced cost, or I created more efficiencies, or we expanded into markets, kind of what Kevin was saying towards the end of his comments. So that tends to stick out. Two, I actually like to see a bit of personality in a LinkedIn profile and or a resume, because I think that you're reading a static document. So I'm trying to assess in a very quick glance. You know, I may spend 1 minute looking at your LinkedIn profile. What can I learn about you? And I respond to people who pick that up in my LinkedIn profile when they send me a networking note. So, you know, if you go to my LinkedIn profile, you'll see something that says, I love a good 2x2. If you send me a note and saying, hey, can you talk to me about what a 2x2 is and why that's important to you? Well, I'm likely going to engage in that conversation. So I do think that if there's some way in which you could show, and you could use kind of the intro paragraph that's in each LinkedIn profile to capture some of your experiences and some of the essence of who you are, that gives me a sense of kind of who you are as a person beyond just hopefully all the results that you put in your profile.
Awesome, thank you. It's funny you said that about pulling something out of your profile. I had someone do that to me a few months ago, and it caught me off guard for a second because it was a little unexpected. Then I was like, hey man, thanks for reading my intro. I appreciate that someone does.
Yeah,
Nice to know.
Yeah, and I'd like to add something on the LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
Because Ray said this, this is really a common mistake. As Ray said, a lot of people put their resume together and they look backwards. LinkedIn is about people finding you. And a lot of people put, like in their headlines, their current job, not what they're looking for. Or make it easy for recruiters or HR people to find you. If you don't use the right words, you don't put the right headings. I'm going to give you a perfect example. I worked with someone on this, and she worked for a consulting firm, and her job title was delivery person. Now, okay, you're like, delivery person? Yeah, in that consulting firm, she delivered the content, but she didn't go out and have clients or account managers. She delivered the content. So they called her delivery person. And on her LinkedIn profile, her heading was delivery person. Makes no sense. She would never be found. So think about, make it easy for us to find you, and some keywords. You know, keywords do work, right? Even HR people and hiring managers, they look for keywords to jump on that. And make sure, as Ray said, and I see it all the time, I have to redo 80% of the resumes I coach people on because they're job descriptions. Looking for people to get results. What was the challenge? Actions, results. Challenge, actions, results. You'll stand out again if you can show that. Remember, LinkedIn resumes are only getting us to want to interview you. Create enough interest to get us to come to you. We're not making a hiring decision there. All we're doing is you open up that box a little bit that I'm interested, and that's where the personal brand comes in. Now I want to learn more, and that's when the interview happens. Some people try to get the interview done in their LinkedIn profile and the resume, and it doesn't work.
Ray, Kevin had mentioned, you know, if you're furloughed or you've been laid off, use this time to enhance your skills, take classes, look for certifications. What do you think about some of the LinkedIn learning courses that are out there?
Yeah, so I will be careful not to overly plug LinkedIn since we own the product. But I think that that's one great resource, and there are many great resources that are out there. So you could use it to take a class, as Kevin said, get a certification, or use it as a time to pursue something that is interesting to you. So if you want to learn more about X, go learn about X. But I would just add that if you are in the midst of a job search, my advice to you is to treat it as if it's a job. And what I mean by that is you have to schedule yourself for it. You have to give yourself some key deliverables. And so how many networking notes are you sending out today? What's the response rate on those networking notes? If that response rate is low, then you probably have to tweak the note. So you could keep your skills sharp if you're looking for a role by doing the things as if you are in a role and you have some deliverable at the end of the year for your corporation. your deliverable is to the corporation of you. And so you need to schedule time, you need to be committed, make calls, do all the things that you would do if you were in a role. And I find that oftentimes people don't pursue it in that way. They were like, well, I'll wake up today and I'll do a couple calls, and no one called me back, or I wonder why they didn't call me back. And the next day they'll make a few more calls. And it has, and I think when I talk to folks who are in a career transition or maybe have not been working, I will ask them, how have you approached the search? How have you done the research? Why did you apply? So I will want to understand how they approached it, because that will give me a view into how they may approach solving a problem if they're on my team or working in my company. And so I learn a lot about an individual by just asking about their approach on a search. And I think that is people don't, the opportunity there is to really focus on doing a search as if you're running the corporation of you.
And Ray, that's great, and leads into one of the questions that just came in. And Kevin or Ray, I would welcome your feedback on it. And I feel for this comment, you know, if you are currently employed and searching or looking, and I'm of the mindset that you should always be open to opportunities, even if you love your job. If you have the toggle on your LinkedIn profile that says you're open to new opportunities, and your current employer sees that, it can create a little bit of tension. So just any thoughts around doing a search while you're currently employed?
Actually, there's a number of features of LinkedIn that you could use. You could actually send a signal out that your current employer won't get. So it will prevent people in your own organization from knowing that you're doing a search. But my broader advice is you should update your LinkedIn profile every 3 to 6 months. And so the best way to ensure that people are seeing your LinkedIn profile, as Kevin said, is by bringing people to you. And the way that you bring people to you is that your profile is refreshed with the most current information that you're working on, additional responsibilities that you've taken. And so that's the way that I think our recruiter certainly will go out and take a look. But there is a button that you could just ensure that your current employer doesn't have access to the knowledge that you're looking for a role. And I actually think maybe the best time to look for a role is when you're happy in your role, because employers will want to know why you're applying. And if I could get a sense fairly quickly if you're running to us or running from someplace else. And so you should also have a clear story on why you're looking to change roles. But again, I find that recruiting people when they're happy is usually the best way for us to find candidates.
And just to add to that, there's a couple things. You know, a lot of companies pay extra to LinkedIn to get different capabilities. I get to see over the 600 million people that are on LinkedIn. I pay for that, right? When I look at a profile, it gives me the opportunity to look at, if I pick a profile, it says, here's 5 people like it, and then 95 more like it. I get access to those 95. So they'll put up on my dashboard 100 people like that. Then they'll have sub-columns that says, out of those 100, there's 20 who are open to other opportunities. Guess where I go first? I go to those 20. So those are the people that kind of get to the head of the class, if you want, to look at. Doesn't mean they're all right fit, but just to say, listen, I'm always looking at employability. The second point is, I know there's employers, and I've had this here with people I coach, that their employers do not let them put LinkedIn profiles out there. Doesn't that tell you a lot about your employer? Is that the culture and company you want to be with? I always argue to companies is it's not just for looking for a job. Customers may want to look at your profile, right? You know, peers, to get to know you, they look at that. It's actually an advertising branding of your company, that these are the people they hire, and look at their backgrounds. So you may argue those cases, but it does tell you something. There's few percentage that actually restrict people, but doesn't that tell you a lot about the company? You have to decide, is that the right company fit?
Yeah.
I think Ray and I would.
Yeah, and many of the new HR systems, you know, whether it's Workday or others, there's seamless integration for your internal HR information and your LinkedIn profile. So with Microsoft, again, a little bit easier since we're on LinkedIn, when I click on your name, I see your LinkedIn profile. And I think that's great because now if I'm going to talk to Kevin in a meeting, like, oh, Kevin worked in the Netherlands. Oh, I worked in the Netherlands. Kevin worked in China. Oh, he likes a good 2x2. Suddenly we walk into that meeting and there's a sense of familiarity, or like, oh, actually, let me do a quick sort on my team to see who are the 50 people that have worked in China. Oh, here are the folks. And so more and more, there's seamless integration between a company's HR system and profiles like LinkedIn or other things. And so it just becomes a much more, another reason to ensure that your profile is updated with the most useful and most relevant information.
We had a question come in that, Kevin, this is probably a little bit for you about being given the feedback that you're overqualified. Maybe you went straight through to a master's or you earned a couple of certifications. And it goes a little bit to you saying, hey, take a lateral move or take something different to get into that company you want. But if you're being told like, no, you're overqualified, what do you do?
You know, I'm a common saying, go back to your brand. You have to, you know, we do look at like, are you just, especially during this economic crisis, are you taking this job just to have a job to get through this, and then you're going to leave us when the market gets good, right? If you can show me your passion, your desire, why you want to be with this company, why this job, and why me, you know what? You might be able to sell me like you're here for the long haul. And you could even say, I reflected. I actually could share with you, I took a step back. You know, in my career, after I let go I actually had to rethink about my brand and what I wanted out of life and all those things. And I sold myself that way. And guess what happened? I got relaunched again by just starting somewhere different in the same company. They relaunched me in another career path. But I could articulate why I wanted something less that fit my desires, my passion, my brand, and why I wasn't looking for more. It's the company came back to me and asked me to take on more, not me. Yeah. But I think this is where you have to have this, it has to be clear and concise. Because I see another question that came up too. Ray, you can comment on this, but here's where I'm at. I've interviewed thousands of people. So many people are just trying to sell themselves for a job. What I want is, think of a bullseye. I'm looking for candidates that it's a marriage, 50-50. I want people to want to hit the bullseye, not just the dartboard. A lot of people try to hit the dartboard. They're trying to figure out what Ray's looking for, or me, or the company, versus this is what I'm good at. This is my personal brand. This is the kind of environment I excel, and this is what I'm really good at. And by the way, if you're not looking for that, I'm not your person. I tell you what, when it happens, it's magical, and that's the person we love. So I know some people I might get too narrow, but if you have clarity of your personal brand, it's not super narrow, but it can be a little narrower. But you know what? You're going to hit the bullseye more often than just hitting a dartboard. Right?
I will say, and I will give everyone on this call a secret. If you ever interview with me, because I've just given you a ton of advice about your LinkedIn profile and your resume. If you're interviewing with me, I don't have your resume in front of me. In fact, in earlier days when I was maybe younger and a bit more polished, I may even have ripped up your resume in front of you during an interview, but that was a different time. And the reason for that is you're the expert on your resume. You've curated exactly what you want me to know about you and what you want to discuss. And so I'm not even looking at it. And what I want to engage in are conversations that help me understand how you might think. And so as an example, when I was working in global health at the Gates Foundation, and we're trying to figure out who would lead our strategies around vaccines or HIV, accomplished leaders, people that are running pharmaceutical divisions, companies, I saw their profile and I would ask them questions like, if money were no problem and money were no issue, how would you solve it? Tell me how you would solve polio with all the money in the world. And you'd be amazed the number of people that couldn't even start the conversation. And that was like, Yeah, interesting. You're probably not going to be able, we're looking for solutions in a space where there are no solutions. In fact, we're not fully sure what the problem is. And if you can't start there, then you can't help us solve. And it was a non-starter. And so even in this environment, we're working on tech. How would you approach X? And so those are the conversations I quickly pivot to. And so as you prepare for interviews, I think you should also prepare not just for what's on your resume, but to Kevin's point, what is that company's business? How do they think about culture? If they talk about growth mindset, you should go into that meeting being ready to talk about questions that exhibit your ability to talk about growth mindset. Or if they're thinking about change or turnaround, can you have that conversation in real time? Because that's the differentiator. People are going to have lots of skills, but we want to know what's going to be different. And real quickly on the overqualified piece, I think if a company is afraid to hire someone that's overqualified, that's a pretty good sign for me that I'm not really interested in that company, because I want to go to a company that says, we're going to get the best talent possible. And if that means that this person has 10 years of experience and we needed 5 years of experience, and that's the job they want to come in and do and help us be great at, awesome. I'll take that. Then saying, I'm just going to find only people that meet the spec and only look at people at 5 years experience, because when I hire people onto my team, the first thing I tell them is, what I'm assessing is whether or not I could work for you, because I want you to be my boss. If I've done a good job in recruiting and finding the right person, you should be my boss. And I'm not afraid of that. And so I'm not afraid of someone being overqualified, because that's just going to make the entire team better. But at the same time, you can't come in and say, I'll do the job, and then to Kevin's point, they don't want to actually do that job. They just want. So if you're getting that pushback from a company that says you're overqualified, and that's the job that you want, then I would encourage you to think about, is that the company you want to work for? And if yes, then you go back and articulate a story of why this is the right role for you.
All right, Ray just gave a great last piece of advice. Kevin, is there anything you want to add to that? A takeaway piece of advice, not what Ray necessarily said.
These are difficult times. I know there's questions around how aggressive should I be, how assertive, how much follow-up. You know what? As much as you're comfortable, get out of your skin. You know, we're looking for, actually, if you come into business situations, our jobs as leaders is to push people out of their comfort zone. If you're looking for a job in this world, you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone. And you may follow up with people more than you feel comfortable with. But you know what? You never know. I mean, and Ray will probably tell you this. I can tell you many times, someone sends me their resume, the job's not open, or I do a LinkedIn, or they call me. 2 weeks later, someone leaves, that person's resume comes across, or they called me, and that job just opened up. It does. Life happens this way. But do your research. Choose those 10 companies you really love to get, not across the board. This is the point. Find those 10 companies that you're passionate about that align to your brand, and go aggressively and try to network. Even Ray's example of what he looks for, if people did research about Ray and his organization, well, they already have a sense of what those kinds of people are you're looking for. And there's a lot of times they come in, they didn't do their research. That's why they're blown away.
Kevin, the number one thing on my notes was, it's not my job to do your research, which is, I think, the most wasted networking opportunity. And I got a couple today where someone sends me a note, hey, I'm interested in working for you. What job should I apply to? Delete instantly, because it just tells me that you're probably not going to help us be successful if you're looking for someone else to do your work.
And Ray, tied to that, here's a normal one we get, because we always said you should have good questions ready, because we do ask, do you have any questions? If someone asks me a question that's on the front page of our website, you're shot. If they said, listen, I noticed that your cash flow is decreasing. I know that you just did this acquisition, your debt increased. By the way, you were growing by acquisitions over the last 2 years. Is that the strategy going forward? And how will you fund that? Or are you going to slow up acquisition? Guess what? They took 2 and 2 and they now had 5. That tells me you did your homework.
Yeah, Kevin, I was offered a role as a CHRO at a large private foundation a few years back, and when I was down doing the meetings, I was meeting with the CFO, and he asked me if I had any questions. I said, yeah, actually, I just read your 990 and you listed your inventory and you had a chair that was worth, that they listed at some astronomical. And he stopped. He literally stopped and looked at me and said, I've never had anyone read the 990 that's come to interview with me, let alone ask me a question about it. And I said, so what do you think we're doing here? If I'm going to be your head of people, I need to understand your business. And he was just shocked. And so to your point about doing research, just going on the website is not enough. When I was recruiting on college campuses for new hires, I would find the student newspaper and I would read it. And in interviews, I'd ask people about it because it gave me a sense of, are you aware what's happening on your own college campus? And if you can't respond or talk to me about what's happening on your own college campus, how can I trust you to come help me and help our company get better in this sector? And so there is, growth mindset and curiosity are all kind of interlinked, but I do think that it requires a tremendous amount of effort in being targeted, understanding why you're making the ask to someone if you're making a networking ask, and being very clear on what you want to get out of that conversation. So Jen, I think we're fast approaching time.
We are fast approaching time, and I hope y'all can see how many stories and pieces of valuable advice Kevin and Ray can share with us. I have 2 pieces of advice before we wrap up. I would encourage all of our participants to sign up for Flyer Connection. It's UD's online networking and mentoring platform, and I think you will get, especially the mentoring piece, you will get so much out of it, as will those that you choose to mentor. And please remember that as an alum, you have access to career services for life for free. Visit their website for more information. Kevin and Ray, I can't thank you enough for spending the past hour with us. And to all of you that took the time out of your day to improve your professional development, we thank you for being a part of this webinar too. The Alumni Association's next webinar is May 27th. With Dr. Ann Crecilius and an expert panel that will dive into the multiple dimensions of wellness. Thank you all and have a great night.
Thanks everyone. Go Flyers.
Go Flyers.
Go Flyers.